The unchanging mouse that is Logitech's GPRO X Superlight has now been out for almost 2 years, and I still find myself going back to it. That's one of my favorite mice to use, but now with recent releases of things like the DeathAdder V3 Pro and Viper V2 Pro from Razer, is it really still worth going back or even going with the GPRO in the first place? And how is it holding up now even after a couple years of heavy use? The build quality on the Superlight has held up impressively well, with the main thing being, breaking down it, is that coating. It's very shiny now. It already started to wear down a decent amount after just 6 months later, but now with almost 2 years of, again, a lot of use on this thing, there's very little of that original actual coating left on there. I'm basically left now with the whole back and the front two clicks being very shiny, very smooth, making the mouse almost feel a little bit slippery in hand. So having these grips on the side is almost necessary for me at this point, because it just drastically improves the feeling and the grip, of course, on the mouse itself. So I'll have a link to these grips down below if you guys are interested in picking up some yourselves. Besides that coating wearing down though, everything else is about the same, with no real issues to the build itself. The Omron 20mm switches are still holding up fine, although there does seem to be some more play in mouse 1 and 2, allowing me to get things like double clicks a lot easier, something I definitely wasn't really able to do when I first pulled it out of the box or got the mouse. After using it though, with some newer mice like the DeathAdder V3 Pro and then going back to the Superlight, it helps me realize just how mushy really the side buttons are on the Superlight. Would love to see those updated, and they've also just gotten substantially worse over the couple years that I put a lot of hours on the mouse. And it's something that impairs my ability in game to actually play. It's something with me just being so used to the Superlight now and the way that feels, but definitely very mushy side buttons. That's something that annoys you. Definitely take that into consideration. The scroll though still feels basically exactly the same as day one, which is great. The wireless performance has still been no issue for me at all over the past couple years, and that's even with having multiple different wireless dongles for different products plugged in my PC. No interference there. I've had no drop-offs, no issues with that connection. I do really hope that when we get the new GPRO refresh, hopefully soon on that one, that we get the micro USB upgrades to USB-C, because I hate getting that cable out for micro USB when I have so many USB-C cables on my desk already, because you have to do that to obviously charge it. Fortunately though, you can get that charging dock that works with it. I just don't like having that on my desk all the time, but I'll link that down below as well if you guys are interested. The battery life though is really awesome. That's one of the things I love the most with the GPRO. I can go a couple weeks on this thing without even having to charge it. The out of the box glide is definitely not the best on the Superlight, so I opted to upgrade it pretty much right out afterwards up to some core pads, which I'll also link those down below in case you're interested in those upgrades. I've been using the core pads though for basically the entire lifespan of the time I've actually been using the mouse, and I could probably switch them out again now with how much hours I put on them, but so far really enjoyed the smooth glide of them, and I would recommend upgrading it if you are gonna get this to use as your main mouse. The sensor being used though is still the Hero 25K, which has still given me no issues, but in the case of a refresh with the GPRO, again, hopefully soon on that, it would be really cool to see that maybe upgrade to a Hero 35K, and also the option to either add something that allows you to get into that 4K polling rate like Razer's been doing recently with their mice, or maybe just something already included with the mouse. The GPRO X Superlight, now having come out almost 2 years ago, is definitely due for a refresh, and it's not that it can't be enjoyed, of course, in its current state, completely usable, but when the competition is implementing these more advanced features like better sensors, better switches, better coatings, ditching that micro USB for USB-C, now we have things like 4K polling rate, it's just making the GPRO Superlight, you know, get knocked down that list as far as those top mice go, little bit by little bit here, getting pushed lower when it just doesn't really have to. So I do hope that we see a new GPRO Superlight very soon here, and I'd say that we're definitely due for it. I imagine it's pretty close. I mean, how many different colors can get released before we actually get a new mouse in itself? Especially with competitions continuing to pass them up, they're gonna have to release something here soon. Overall though, the mouse has more than proved its worth for me at that $150 price point. I mean, I put in many or countless hours on this thing, probably up into the 1,000 to 1,500 at this point. And still, again, as you guys saw, no really big issues besides mainly the coating just wearing completely off, which is not to be unexpected. It happens, but makes it pretty slippery. So make sure you have those grips in there if that does happen. But overall, if you're willing to pull the trigger on the mouse, I have nothing really bad to say about it besides that it might just be worth waiting for them to update it, or at least take a look at some of the other current options on the market like the DeathAdder and Viper V2 Pro, which are on the screen now.